Welcome back. Ibrahim Raisi, Iran's judiciary chief, has won the country's presidential election. Raisi won 61.95% of the vote in Friday's election on a voter turnout of 48.8%. This was the lowest turnout in the Islamic Republic's history. To speak about the Iranian election and the president elect Raisi and his policies, let's go to Dr. Amina Al-Din. Over to you, Dr. Amina.
Thank you, Hina Zuberi. I have the wonderful opportunity today to talk about the very recent Iranian elections and the newly elected president under a lot of controversy is Ibrahim Raisi. And to talk a little bit about his understandings of foreign policy, but also to talk about what's going on in Iran. My guest today is Yusuf Azizi, and Yusuf is a PhD student in public administration at Virginia Tech in Alexandria, Virginia. Arlington's stuck in my mind. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So let's first talk about Iran and where it is today to put this new election in some kind of perspective. I know that there was a lot of uproar over the now former president, and then a lot of controversy with the newly elected president. So before we get to this presidential stuff, let's talk about public affairs in Iran.
Okay, yeah, so Iran is like United States. The political system includes three branches of government, the executive branch, the parliament, and the judiciary. So they have, since 1979, the Islamic Revolution in 1979, they have a kind of hybrid regime. It is not all democratically elected politicians come out. Some of them are coming to the power, to the officials by selection. So it is a hybrid regime. We cannot put it as a really dictatorship or theatrical regime. We cannot put it as a democratic regime like the Western countries, if we assume they are democrat. It is a little, it is a little bit, has a background, a complicated background about the Iranian. About more than 100 years. They are struggling for freedom, for justice, for all of the values that we respect in Islam too, but also we know that the humanities also respect that.
But how did these mullahs and everybody, I know that the government is split into two, and you have a religious side and a kind of a political side, which somehow the other cohere. But why are the people struggling? What are they struggling for?
So there are different people. The country has more than 80 million people, and each of them has different idea. There are Islamic beliefs there are secular people there are nationalist people there. So there are a lot of factors that participated in every people's mind to decide about the issues. But one of the most important challenges that Iran has, many countries has, even United States, even Western countries, and we can see in the pandemic, it is about the trust in government. And the trust in government now not in a good shape in Iran. Okay, it is due to bad decision making, it's bad policy making by the previous administration. I mean, the current administration, the Rouhani administration, or even it is because of fundamental issues like the structural, political structure of the constitution. That the constitution can be revised. This is the expectation that many people now asked for that. So I mean that the social movement and the needs that people require for better government, better governance, is something that's now apparent for everyone in Iran. And the question is that the elite and the parties and the officials would like to step, forward for that revision and reform in this section.
So who is this new president? And is he different from the old one? Is he going to bring reform? What's he going to do?
If we divide the foreign policy and domestic policy, this is just a hope, and we hope that because the new president Ibrahim Raisi, he has worked for over 40 years since the Islamic Revolution happened in Iran in the judiciary system against the corruption, against all of these law and regulation, to confirm that. And one of his slogan during the campaign about the corruption in executive branch, he believed that, okay, we did our job in judiciary, but it's not enough. We have to protect the civil rights. We have to protect the budgetary from the deficit from the executive branch, because of what happened as a corruption in Iran. Some people said that it is systematic corruption. Some believe no, it is not systematic. It's just some bad apples in the system. But he believes, and many people trusted him, that he could have some changes in this regard about the corruption in the executive branch, in the signing agreement and all of these issues we have in the United States, maybe in the past more, but now less. So this is one of the hope. But let's see if he is not willing to change some of the fundamental issues, as I mentioned before, in the political spectrum, in the political environment. So he would fail in the next 4 years, and people also would lose their hope in him. But near 18 million people voted for him. So this is one of the most important challenges he has in the next administration.
Well, we know that the U.S. has led the way toward putting sanctions on Iran, and that has curbed the people's access to vital kind of substances. I have to admit, I don't understand putting sanctions on a country. We have nuclear weapons. The Western country have nuclear weapons. India, China, but we're determined that Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons. But the other thing is that recently Mossad snuck into Iran and stole some stuff. I am anxious to hear about that.
So yeah, on foreign policy, Iran has been under sanctions since the revolution, because it is. But the toughest sanction on Iran happened during the last the Obama administration, and then continued during the Trump administration. So the sanction is not something that Iranian strangers that they know how they can cope against that. So over that, but the fact is that Iran doesn't have any nuclear bomb. And the JCPOA, the Iran nuclear deal, the 2015 Iran nuclear deal, was signed that the Western countries and the United Nations Security Council, all of them has enough inspection and oversight on Iranian activities in nuclear issues, that they make sure even if anytime Iran want to diverge its program, its civil program, to nuclear bomb or atomic bomb, so they know it beforehand, about 1 year before that's happened, so they can do something in the international organization or international work. So I mean that this is one of the main argument that President Obama and President Biden right now have about the restoring JCPOA, because when JCPOA is restored, the Iran nuclear program would be in the box that everyone can see and oversight and have a scrutiny over that, so they know what's happening there. And this is the only case within the struggle that Iran has with the West, especially the United States, that also the China and Russia agree on that okay, we don't want Iran access to the nuclear bomb. We want to have some kind of words on that. And Iran also too. Iran says that, okay, we are not looking for the bomb. We are looking for just using it as an energy, as the, medical issues. So it is very good to cooperate to each other about this issue.
Well, then why did Israel send Mossad to go tipping around in Iranian territory?
So an Israeli issue, as you mentioned, many countries has a nuclear bomb. Israel has nuclear bomb too, and they are not under any kind of investigation by the IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency. So they wanted to, the Netanyahu, he wanted to say that, okay, Iranians say lie when they sign the JCPOA. They are still looking for something bad. They are still have some secret program. But as a matter of fact, we
Israel
know.
does the same thing. I mean, Iran is not, if the Iranians are lying, so are the Israelis and everybody else out there.
Yeah. So I wanted to say that, yeah, the file that he claimed that he stole from Iran, as the intelligence service in the United States says, it is before 2003. And the intelligence services in the United States, they confirmed several times that even if Iran has any kind of military nuclear program before 2003, after 2003, Iran diminished any kind of secret program. And all of the program Iran has from the beginning, from uranium enrichment to the centrifuge, to all advanced centrifuge, everything now under the investigation by the IEA. Everything in the country are investigated in the country.
So
And no countries in the world has this kind of investigation on the country.
exactly. I mean, so what does this new president think about all of this, from the sanctions to, do you think he's going to agree to talk with Biden to get a new deal to lift some of these sanctions? What's going to happen? I mean, or at least what does this new president promise he's going to do?
Yeah, before I answer your question, let me just mention two basic issues. First of all, it's like most other countries. We don't expect that Iran's foreign policy will be fundamentally changed by transferring power between administration and election. Okay,
Okay.
Maybe Mr. Trump was exceptional in some ways, but if you see United States, the whole national security and agenda and foreign policy application, it's not many changes between the government coming and the next government coming, between Democrat or Republican. A second issue is that the Iran's foreign policy decision making is conducted by the Supreme National Security Council. This council is a very heavy hand for the supreme leader, and has been intentionally designed to reflect diverse political views between Iranian politicians. This council includes politicians from across Iran political spectrum, so-called moderates, conservatives, principalists, and even sometimes reformists. So the council includes the head of three branches of government: parliament, judiciary, executive, and minister related to the national security issues, like the foreign affairs minister, the military and intelligence organization, and also representative from the supreme leader. So this is another factor that they wanted to say. I believe we would not see many changes, sharp changes in Iran foreign policy. But on nuclear issues, as you mentioned, particular nuclear issues, we know that the new administration in Iran, Mr. Raisi, he will be inaugurated in early August. So in the next 40 days, we still have the Rouhani and Zarif as who led the negotiation with the United States. And just yesterday, the news came up from the last round of the negotiation in Vienna, that all parties, especially the United States and Iran, they are in the final phases to restore the 2015 Iran nuclear deal named JCPOA. So I believe that before Raisi came to the office, comes to the office, actually, this deal will be restored. And also, actually, Raisi himself, during the campaign, during the public debate, he said, okay, I'm not against the nuclear deal. I'm not against the JCPOA. We just want to receive the benefits we expected from the deal in 2015. But we didn't receive anything. Trump comes and, came and withdrew from the deal and put all of the sanction against Iran again. So they said that, okay, the major issues that Iran needs is to sell freely its oil, petroleum, and natural resources, and also freely can transfer the currency into the government, into the country. They wanted to access to the international financial system. So if this happens and they get the guarantee that the United States never come out of the deal again, so they don't have any problem to restore the JCPOA, because at least for the limited time it can lift some of the sanction, and they can get some benefits for the economy, for the fragile economy Iran has.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. Iran is, There's a lot to talk about, but I want to thank you, Mr. Azizi, for coming and spending some time with us. Back to you, Hina.
Thank you so